Oh, let's see here. So that's good, and that's set up. Just got to wait for it over here. There we go. Now we're set there. We can pop out the chat, put it in another monitor. Cool. Drag that part down. And we will go to live chat. There we go. And I think that we're all good. All right. Excuse me. Thanks to everybody for coming by today. Happy time of day. Hope you're doing well. John Hollick, good morning from Union County, Georgia. I hope to see you at AdeptiCon and say hello in person. Well, I will plan to be there. I'll be in the Army Painter booth a decent amount. I'll tell you guys in a bit. I have to do voice exercises before I start this. It'd be a smart move to do. But I'll tell you folks a bit what my schedule is going to be. So, Nurgle Matthew, good to see you. Dino, how you doing? If someone will be at a hotel, please let me know what soap scent do you have there and when AMG has their scene to talk about Legion errata. Interesting. Fungazi, good to see you. Good morning from lovely Washington, D.C. I'm so pumped to our AdeptiCon, best week of the year. Is there anything you're particularly excited about, stuff you're looking forward to in the dealer room? I'm definitely interested to see what the Trench Crusade booth is going to be like. It's going to be a good size booth. It's one of the bigger booths at AdeptiCon this year. I can show you guys the exhibitor hall map in a little bit. And I'm also interested to see what kind of new plastics they're going to be coming out with and stuff like that. Usually the stuff that I'm surprised by is the stuff that I like the most sometimes there at AdeptiCon. So I don't necessarily know what it is ahead of time. But the big thing I'm always looking forward to is just seeing people and hanging out and seeing people I haven't seen in a long time, all that kind of stuff. So happy time of day. I have to head to work before the show starts. Don't forget to hit the like button, everyone. Have a good one. Well, thank you very much, David Stern. I appreciate that. Rod Wonder, how you doing? I really need to make something today. Gotcha. I really need to make this today. Make this someday. Adepticon? The show? I'm not sure. But it's good to see you. Dragonfire, morning from Quebec. Darker Design, good morning from no longer frozen Maryland. That's pretty good. Yeah, we're last week, if we would have had the show on Sunday, we would have been in the midst of getting about 2 feet of snow. We got 2 feet of snow pretty much Sunday, Monday. Most of it is gone now already. Like, it's just because like yesterday was 60. You know, it's weird. Today is supposed to be a high of only 45, but still, a lot of the snow is melted. So thank goodness for that. But we still had to shovel a lot of it because it was like I have a snowblower, but it's not a huge one, and it couldn't handle this snow because the snow was just slush. Like that's the problem. It snowed a ton, like so much, but it was like barely above freezing. You know what I mean? It was one of those kind of snows where everything is just, it's that snow that they always say is really good for building a snowman because it packs so well. Thing is I don't want a snowman inside my snowblower. It doesn't work. So we had to shovel it all by hand like cave people, and it was a bummer. And I was sore for a couple. This shoulder is still sore. I probably did something to it. I don't know, but hope everyone going to Adepticon has a good time. Absolutely. Rodney, how you doing? Very hot Oklahoma. I heard that the things in the middle part of the country are real warm right now. VJ Morph, how you doing? Joseph, morning from Cleveland, prepping some models for Adepticon this morning. Nice. Motor Breath Jazz, hello. How you doing? Mad Max, good morning to everyone from Decatur, Texas. Jez Hunt, from an overcast bit of Hadrian's Wall country. Nice. Comp Native, how you doing? Clarence Angelette. CJ from Mobile, good morning. How you doing? Ralph, good time of day. Wargaming Wander, hope everyone's doing well. Dry brushing some tanks for Battletech today while watching. Nice. Feisty Crabman, hello. How you doing? Central Texas. Jim Crimmins, good morning from the woods north of North Carolina, of NYC. Roan, good morning from Peterborough, Canada. Good morning from Saskatchewan. March comes in like a lion and out like a lamb in the middle of a Tasmanian devil. In the middle of Tasmania, in the middle is a Tasmanian devil. I will be able to learn to read one of these days. Whenever I hear that, like, comes in like a lion and out like a lamb thing, it always reminds me of that bit that John Belushi did one time on the Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, back when he was on Saturday Night Live, about how, like, in America, March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb. But in other countries, it's different. And then he just goes through all the different, and he just gets more and more agitated until eventually he falls down. That was kind of his gig that he used to do at that time on Saturday Night Live. In Thailand, it comes in like a lion, but then it goes out like a totally different lion. And it's just, it's very funny. Howdy y'all from the Philly Burbs. How you doing? Double Dip. Good afternoon from Kent, England. Bohemian Animal, good morning from sunny Halifax, dry brushing some iron hands for a heresy event next weekend. Nice. Good morning from Farmington Hills, Michigan. How you doing? Morning from Gilbert, Arizona, making pancakes and have an awesome day. Well, I mean, pancakes are pretty good, so that'll help. Terrence, how you doing? Time to pack up the minis, indeed. Good evening, Sundered Psyche. How you doing? Glad to make the stream 2 nights in a row. Just getting ready for bed. I'll hang around for a bit now. Gotcha. Morning from New Jersey. Hoping to finish either Word Bearer models or Trader Guard cosplay today. Ooh. Good morning from a warm Jonesboro in Southern Illinois. Good morning from Texas, Dallas, Texas. Taking a break from Warhammer and Star Wars Legion to start working on Gundam Assemble models. Cool. Let's see here. There we go. Good morning from a warming up Cleveland, spending the morning painting some epic Imperial Guard for a AdeptiCon Epic Armageddon Super Tourney. Oh, that sounds fun. Checking in from damp, gloomy South Ontario. How you doing, John? Gary Henry, how you doing from Des Moines? Good morning from Quebec City. Can't stick around, so have a nice AdeptiCon. Indeed, appreciate it. Allison Silverhair, how you doing? Morning, Adam and Chad. Did you take advantage of the lovely priming weather? Strangely, I didn't. No, I didn't particularly have anything to prime like yesterday. Mostly what I was doing yesterday was I had a live show for the Patreon folks from noon to 2, and then after that I was working on the design, not the design. Well, yeah, I was working on the cover for our new game because we're going to show it off at AdeptiCon. We're going to show off the cover during our live podcast thing. So I also made a keynote, which is basically Mac's better version, I think, of PowerPoint. But I made like a short thing with a couple of slides. So because there's going to be a screen in the room, evidently, so we're going to have it, and it'll just say, the Snarlcast Live, and then eventually when it's time to reveal, I'll be able to go through the slides and then boop, 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 and show you the cover. So I had to design that, which didn't take super long. It was more the logo, kind of finishing that up and everything. And I don't know that everything's 100% finished with the cover, but I think it's pretty close. So, but we still may change things a little bit. But yeah, so I was doing that a lot, and we watched a movie. What did we watch? Oh, we watched Ready or Not, which was kind of a horror/thriller. There's the sequel to it's in theaters now. I don't know if we'll go see it or not. I don't know. We'll probably wait till it comes out on streaming. But my wife was like, "Oh, I saw the trailer for that new thing, and I haven't seen the old one." And I think I saw it just because I didn't think she'd want to. So, but I saw it long enough ago that I forgot most of it. It's kind of how it works with me. That being said, I was 3D printing something overnight, so I don't know if I'll be able to prime it or not between the time that I leave. I might have to wait till I get back from AdeptiCon. Morning from Santa Cruz. I'm interested to see if you find any good solo games. I'm always looking for them, for sure. Hello from Jerusalem. How you doing? Good morning, chat. I'll be volunteering at registration. It's glorious to hand out those VIP bags. Nice. Very cool, Drew. Jebbies, how you doing? Good morning from Ottawa. Merry morning from Ottawa. Greetings, happy outdoor priming day. Still have Adepticon on my bucket list. Alas, I will not be able to attend this year due to spouse illness. Well, I hope she gets better or they get better, for sure. With priming weather, there must be also seasonal allergies. Well, yeah, that's a good point as well. That's true. I don't see Army Painter on the exhibit list. Oh yeah, they're there. They're under T for the Army Painter, if you look at the exhibit list. Website, right down there. So yeah, they're right down here, 1104, the Army Painter. And the booth is a 10 by 20, and it's right over here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. I think you can. But yeah, this is the Army Painter booth right there on the corner. And this big giant booth here is Archon Studios. Like, they have the biggest booth pretty much. And then this other big honkin' booth here is Trench Crusade. So it's going to be us right here, Trench Crusade, Archon Studios. This big long booth next to us here is spraygunner.com. It's all airbrush stuff all the time. And then 1007 right over here is Orc the Brand, which is a new company put together by Tyler from the YouTube channel $1 Billion Clown Farm and some other folks. I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing there, but it's always nice to see Tyler. So, but yeah, that's where we're at right there. There we go. Ow. Greetings from Poland. How you doing? Good day from Belgium. Stuff is heavy. Snow, yes. When it's really super like wet and slushy like that, yeah, it's really heavy. There was, by the time the plow got done at the foot of our driveway, the apron there of the driveway, it was, admittedly, I'm taller than she is. I'm about a foot taller than my wife, but it was up to her shoulders. It was like, it sucked. Do you want to build a snowman? No, I do not. Howdy from Central Texas. How you doing? I was getting new tires on Monday, and I was watching the aftermath of that storm on the waiting room TV. Michigan got a bunch of that too. Yep. Morning from Kenosha, getting ready for Adepticon. I hope to see you there. I'll be there. Morning from North Queensland, predicted to get up to 30 C by noon. Oh goodness, that seems warm. Morning from cloudy Milwaukee, looking forward to my event prep for Adepticon. Yeah, it's cloudy here too. Let's see, what do I still have to get done? I have to, let's see, this afternoon after we get back from the in-laws for lunch, I have to edit the podcast it'll go live tomorrow. It's our 1-year anniversary because we started the podcast, the Snarlcast, which is about indie war games and their design. We do it every 2 weeks. It's me and Vince. And you can find it wherever you look for your stuff. Your podcasts, like if you like to listen to podcasts, you can also find us on YouTube under Snarling Badger Studios. What was my point? Oh, right. We started it last year. It came out the week of Adepticon, so it's been a year now. This is technically the 30th episode, but that's because, and not the 26th, even though if we do it every 2 weeks and we do it for a year, it should be 26 because it's half 52, right? Well, when we launched it with 4 episodes to start. So instead of just launching 1 episode, we launched 4 episodes because then people could like binge it a bit and like kind of pick up and go. And then, yeah, so that's why we're at 30. So anyway, I got to edit that and I have to do some other layout stuff that I need to get done. And then tomorrow and Tuesday is basically, I have to get another video done for this upcoming Friday and all that stuff. And I also have to pack and all that stuff. But I'm like leaving on Wednesday, but it's like a 90-minute drive. So I was like, well, what am I going to pack? And I'm like, I don't know, like, how about Wednesday morning? It won't be hard. But I am going to be during, well, not while we're eating, but like while I'm over at the in-laws for lunch today, my plan is also to make a very finalized like list of things I need to bring. So there's that too. I also need to finish up gluing magnets into my Trench Crusade guys, my Prussians, so I can bring them to Adepticon. Let me see here. Overcast, Minnesota. How you doing? Afternoon all from Scotland. Last Sunday it was in the 60s. We got a huge thunderstorm and the temps dropped to the 40s. By Monday, we were in the 30s with flurries. We were in the 80s yesterday. It's all over the board. It's just crazy. Morning from Kenosha. I'll see you at AdeptiCon. How you doing? Morning from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is my favorite Sunday show you do all year. AdeptiCon hype stream. See you there, Uncle Adam. Absolutely. Afternoon from UK. How you doing? Morning from No Sleep, Mentone, California. Well, I hope that you get some sleep at some point. Anyone else excited to see new Snarling Badger release at AdeptiCon? So we're not going to release the game at AdeptiCon. It's not done. We're going to release the information about what the next game is about. The game is still coming out at the end of May, so it's still, you know, but yeah, we will be announcing the name of the game and like what it's about. We'll be showing you the cover, but the game itself will not be released per se. What's a good German restaurant to visit while at AdeptiCon? There's one called Mater's, Mater''S. Mater's is probably the best, I think. It's kind of fancy, but it's pretty good. There's also a giant chair, like in the lobby while you're waiting. There's this humongous giant chair, and when you sit in it, you look like a little kid, and that's fun. So yeah. I'm assuming GW has their own separate wing. GW's booth is outside of the exhibitor hall. So like if you look here at the exhibitor hall, this is the middle part of the big main hall. There's exhibit hall. You'll notice over on the left side over here, it says exhibit hall AB is on this side and exhibit hall E is on that side. And the middle part is exhibit halls C and D. So when they want to close off the exhibitor hall, the vendor area, they have these like slats that come out of the walls they go all the way to the ceiling, and they're like fake walls, and they can basically pull them out, and then it will cut off this middle part from the two sides, but it's just one giant room, right? So on the exhibit hall AB side on the left, as we're looking at this map, that side of the extra part of the room is just going to be all Asmodee gaming and stuff. Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Shatterpoint, probably even some X-Wing still, Marvel Crisis Protocol, all that tournament stuff's gonna be on that side. And then on the other side, the right side, as we're looking at it, Exhibit Hall E, that's where the majority of the 40K stuff's gonna be, maybe also the Age of Sigmar stuff. And then last year there was also BattleTech stuff in there too. So it was basically mostly Games Workshop, but also BattleTech. But also in that Exhibit Hall E is where the actual Games Workshop booth is going to be. And they like to have it out of the vendor hall so that they can keep it open past 6, because the vendor hall closes at 6. So all the rest of the vendors who are all completely just shattered by 6 p.m., like talking to people all day and selling and doing all kinds of stuff, GW is like, well, we're just going to keep going. So they're either pushing their people a lot more to get things done, or they have a lot more people and they're doing shifts. I don't know, but yeah, they decide to go later, and they have it outside of that of the actual exhibitor hall. But they've done that for a little while now. It used to be in the exhibitor hall, but the last several years it's been outside. Let's see here. Guys, their Ironwind medals are so nice, and their metal minis have that old school cool factor. Nice. Very cool. Hi from Belgium. How you doing? Battletech Gothic models sat on my shelf, cleaned up and undercoated for the last 4 or 5 months, percolating in my skull until I caught a vibe for them and dove in. Well, that's cool. I dip nearly everything and love it. Get some Turpenoid to clean up and matte varnish to apply afterwards, but I think the results are great. Sure. I had 11 inches of snow on my driveway. I've never been happier that I have a working snowblower. Yeah. Adepticon, indeed. Colin Mack, how you doing? Afternoon from sunny Erskine, Scotland, working on Kings of War, then out for a coffee. Nice. Tick Paint, see you soon, brother. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Let's see here. ASL Baron, looking forward to seeing you again. Indeed. Do you care to share some thoughts about StarCraft, the miniatures game? Cheers from Poland here. I don't know a ton about it. I've only really seen stuff that I've seen in some other videos. I'm not super into army scale games at this point. So we were talking about this a little bit in the Patreon show yesterday. if they had made a version that was like StarCraft Ghost and it was like a skirmish game or something like that, especially if it was kind of like a solo skirmish game, that'd be pretty cool. Then I would be pretty interested. For those of you who don't know, StarCraft Ghost was a video game that never actually came out, but it was supposed to, and it was supposed to be you were like a stealthy Terran operative who was going to do it, but they teased it and teased it for years, and then it just never came out. They canceled it. So to me, that would be more interesting. I'm just not an army guy. Secondly, I was never super attached to StarCraft as a video game. I played the original here and there. I've never been good at RTSs. I'm kind of dumb, so that's problematic. Yeah, so I've never been into RTSs too much, but I'm glad that people who like that kind of thing, I mean, they seem to be chomping at the bit. And like I said, I watched a little bit of, who was I watching? I don't remember who. I was watching somebody. Well, Dana Howell had a bunch of the models that she was working on and stuff, so I got to see some of those. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, we'll be right. I mean, when I'm at the Army Painter, we'll be like literally right across the aisle over there from them. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm glad they're doing, well with it. I hope it really takes off for them. It's a licensed product, which is always, I mean, the podcast episode that Vince and I did that's going up tomorrow morning is all about licensed products and stuff like that, like licensed gaming and the pros and the cons. Morning from foggy Connecticut, planning on painting up some Halo Flashpoint today. Thanks for enabling my bad choices. Well, I do what I can. Now it's all melted and gone. Spring in Wisconsin is weird. It is. Snarlcast already a year? Time flies. I know, man. I know. Hello from England. How you doing? Cleaning the cups for my paint gun this morning. Very cool. Morning, Uncle Adam. Warming up here in Calais. Nice. Coming from New York. Looking forward to seeing you at AdeptiCon. Absolutely. A Frenchman is coming to my country to tell us to save fuel by limiting our air travel. Interesting. Mater's is good, but that Polish place down by close to downtown has some amazing food. Can't remember the name for the life of me. I'm not sure either. Yeah, Mater's is the only German place I've been to there, but I had a good time with it. Let's see here. Any predictions on what the standouts of the con might be this year? Not really. Like, I guess, I don't know. AdeptiCon is a great time because there's so many different types of games out there. There's big tournaments, but there's also just people getting together and playing games. And people, the thing that's very cool is you get people who come together. At least to me, the thing that's very cool. I couldn't really care much less about like the big tournaments, like the big 40K tournament, the big Age of Sigmar tournament, the big, that kind of stuff. That's fine. I'm glad those people have that outlet and can do that kind of stuff. And I know they have a great time with it. But I'm not a tournament guy and it's fine. But there's also a lot of other really cool things that can't happen anyplace else other than a big convention like Adepticon. My friend Tick Paints there in the chat. He runs a humongous heresy, like basically Titan battle, like tons and tons of people who all own Titans, Warlord Titans, or smaller like the War Dogs, but like all these big 2 foot tall giant resin models and stuff like that. A bunch of them show up, bring their stuff, and then they have this like, I don't know, 6-hour giant battle of just Titans fighting Titans and stuff like this on giant tables and things like that. And that's not like a tournament. It's just basically, it's just a good time and a hang and it's cool. And it's amazing to see. I like to go take pictures and stuff. But there's a lot of like stuff that's going on in the indie areas, which are more over in the North building. And that's a lot of interesting and cool stuff that's just sort of like sometimes it's just a group of people who all talk together on a Discord. So they come together at Adepticon and they get to play a game once a year and they have a great time. And, they've all been working on terrain for it and they all brought different disparate pieces of terrain, put together this big board and play this game and stuff. And it's just, and they're making up their own rules or whatever they're doing. And like, that's the stuff that I really get jazzed about with Adepticon. I also like walking through and seeing stuff in the exhibitor hall, and I'm like, I've never heard of this before, but it's really cool. You know what I mean? Like I can look here at this list of exhibitors, and I can pick like Savage Sparrow Designs. Don't know what that is. Never heard of it. Let's see here. I mean, admittedly, I know a lot of these, but it's kind of my job. Echo Dark Studios, not sure of that one. Dracoya Minis, not sure of them. Don't know who that is. Demented Games, I don't think I've heard of them. Admittedly, most of these I've heard of. I'm not going to lie, but still, there's always, you find something and you're like, oh, what the heck is this? You know, and so that's what I find cool too. I was going to say art and masks. I'm like, oh, art and masks. I don't know. But then it says by Lisa Sell. And I'm like, oh, I know Lisa. Yeah. She used to actually, she's very talented. She used to come to, I used to run a little tiny convention here in town that was just a tabletop gaming convention in general, not tabletop wargaming, because I do TMX now here in town. But it was a long time ago, early 2000s till about, I stopped doing it in like 2012. And she used to come be a vendor there, and she's a sculptor and makes all kinds of cool, like she like makes these cool resin masks and all kinds of neat stuff. So I was like, art and mask. Oh no, I know her name. Yeah. But Fifth Angel Studios, don't know what that is. You know, it's cool. So yeah, it's always kind of cool to see stuff that you've not come across before, and that kind of stuff. It's kind of the same thing with Gen Con too. You just all of a sudden stumble across something, and you're like, wow, I had no idea that I needed this so much, but there it is, you know. Let's see here. Just wrapped a weekend hosting a paint and take at MegaCon Orlando. Went decently well. Well, that's cool. That's very cool. Good morning from Oklahoma. See you at AdeptiCon. It's my first. Well, congratulations. That's very cool. Yesterday, I finished recasting the models I need to paint today, 2 Warjacks and 7 infantry models. Oh, wow. Cool. Those room dividers in convention halls are commonly referred to as air walls. I don't know why, but I know that you're right. Like I know I've heard that term before, but I don't know why they'd be called air walls. Are they filled with air, or are they to stop the air from? I don't know. But yeah, you're right. They are they like hang from the ceiling kind of, and they're like on a track, and then they're like kind of skinny and they're segmented, and you can put them all into the wall, and then you have one giant honking room, and then when you want to close it off, they just start pulling them through and sliding them through the area, and they kind of clunk together and they build a wall. Let's see. You're working on some War Machine. Very cool. I'm going to probably stop by that booth, Steamforge Games a little bit too. I kind of want to take a look at some of the models again. And I have some meetings and stuff I've got to do as well, besides just working in the booth. JD from the Sump Sea is going to be displaying a huge Necromunda Sump battle board. I hope you get a chance to check it out at AdeptiCon. I hope I get to see it as well. Have you dabbled in Warcrow or Eldfall Chronicles before? No. I'm familiar with both of them. Warcrow, I don't know. When given the chance, I am generally more likely to go with sci-fi than fantasy in most situations. Not all, but most. So right there, Warcrow's in a little bit of a behind spot. Then the other issue to some degree with Warcrow for me is, well, it's got custom dice, which I'm like, I could do without that. And also, like, I saw the book, the rule book, and it's like this friggin' thick. And I was like, yeah. So I just don't see myself playing it necessarily. The models I've seen look pretty cool. But yeah, I do have a tendency to be more interested in science fiction stuff. Generally, not always, but. And then as far as the Elderfall Chronicles or whatever, that's the Modifius, like Oblivion / Skyrim, right, type stuff. If I remember correctly. I don't know what it is. The models didn't do much for me. I don't know what. It just like it's not. I don't know. It's the same with Fallout a little bit. The models are just like weirdly proportioned, and I'm just like that. Like they seem too tall or skinny or something like that. I can't quite put my finger on it. Obviously, I'm not listening until I see sailing ferries to Magnetic Island. What? Okay. Any games you looking forward to seeing at AdeptiCon? Like I said, I want to see what comes out of what comes out of Trench Crusade. They're going to have a preview event. You know how like Games Workshop always has their big preview event. It's always on Wednesday night. It's usually on Wednesday night, and it's a big thing, presentation, and all that kind of stuff. They're going to have Trench Crusade's going to have theirs on Saturday night, and it's going to be in the Army Painter room. So Army Painter has a room that they get to use, like, they've got obviously their booth and all that kind of stuff, but they've also got a room that they get to use for the majority of the convention, from what I understand. And it is kind of over by Fort Wapple. If you're familiar with the convention center and stuff like that, it is over. It's kind of up by the front entrance where you first kind of come in, the normal big front entrance. And it's the Fort Wapple is this area that's just, it's where all the painters hang out and they paint. Like there's all kinds of stations set up with lights and the whole deal. And everybody, if you need to like, oh geez, I need to work on my Golden Demon for the last 5 more minutes before you can sit there and paint and all that kind of jazz. And there's going to be a room over there someplace that is the Army Painter hangout room. And there's going to be, I think, seminars in there and stuff like that. And on Saturday, there's going to be a big, long paint jam in the afternoon. And then I think it's going to end at 8. And then at 8, when that ends, then it's going to become the Trench Crusade preview room or whatever. So if you're interested in learning about the new stuff that Trench Crusade's coming out with or whatever, then that's going to be Saturday night. As I sit here processing my latest eBay purchases, I remind myself that I don't have a miniature problem. I have a miniature storage problem. I mean, I understand that. StarCraft tabletop game came too late. I mean, there's something to be said about that. You know what I mean? Like, because it's been a pretty long time since StarCraft 2 came out. I don't know if it gets as many plays as it used to. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. As for StarCraft, I just want a box of the Terran Marines. I think a lot of people will buy some of the models and then be like, I'm just going to use this for some other game or whatever. And I could see the Terrans getting used a lot. I could see people just wanting to paint Terrans or the Zerg or Protoss or whatever. I don't know. Wish they had used the opportunity to fill the gap left by Space Hulk instead of armies. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for the style of video game that it was. If you take it and go, look, we're going to use the stuff from StarCraft, but we're going to put it inside of a tight building or tight hallways of a spaceship, which kind of didn't happen in the video game. I could see the video game licensee being like, or licensor, I don't know. I could see the people who own the video game being like, that's not how it happened, dude. And you're like, yeah, I know, but it'd be better if it did. And then they'd be like, well, but I do wish that somebody would pick up the ball with Space Hulk, because it doesn't seem like GW wants to. There were plenty of missions like that back in the games. See, I guess I don't remember that. I don't remember them being like inside tight halls and stuff like that. It always seemed like it was outside in a field. You know what I mean? There's some stuff amongst the StarCraft minis that'll be handy for Stargrave. Sure. Hello from Southwest Michigan. Hoping to play a few games of Mage Knight today. Ooh, very, very cool. Old school. My Snap-on paint cups have been filled with thinner since last night. I hope I can get all the gunk off of it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I got missed/skipped. All good. Thanks for getting. Why do you think Combat Patrol has faded away? Thanks for getting me into 3D printing terrain. Oh, yeah. My video coming up on Friday is going to be about 3D printed terrain. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Like I said, I was printing something overnight again. And it was one of those deals where I was absolutely sure I was going to run out of the filament. And then I was amazed when I didn't. Like, it got all the way to the end. So I bet when I go down there, I'm going to be able to see cardboard on the spindle, because I think I got real close. I just assumed I wasn't going to make it, and I was going to have to like change the stuff, but I didn't. It's great. Why do you think Combat Patrol has faded away? I think it's not like that's what me and Sam were playing when 10th came out 3 years ago. So we would play Combat Patrol. He would generally run the Tyranids that came in the Leviathan box, and I would run. Initially, I would run the Death Watch because I painted the Death Watch Combat Patrol first. Then I painted the Space Marine ones that came in the Leviathan box, and so we played that. And then eventually, I did my Imperial Guard, and then we would play that. And then I even did. By that point, then he had Necrons too. And then I think one time we played a game of Death Watch versus Necrons, and that was real hard because I had almost nothing to deal with his big Doomstalker guy. And then eventually I had my Necrons, and then I was going to work on a fifth one, and I was working on Dark Angels, and then I kind of gave up. I don't know. We stopped playing because they kept changing the rules and moving the goalposts. Like they just constantly were like, "Oh, here's the," and it's just the thing they do now. Every 6 months, 3 months, 20 minutes, whatever it is, they're just like, "Here's new points, here's new rules, here's new this, here's new that," and you don't have to worry about like the points and stuff like that. Obviously, with Combat Patrol, but like if they changed like keywords and things, and and what they do, like sustained fire or whatever, blah blah, when they would start to change those things, change the way that indirect fire worked and things, because I had indirect fire in my my field operating batteries or whatever they're called, the guns, the big guns in my Imperial Guard Combat Patrol, because I built the original Imperial Guard Combat Patrol, not the new one where it's just like mostly all dudes and some guys on weird robot horses. I built a cool one that has the armored Sentinel, and it has the guns and yada yada. Anyway, yeah, it was just the constantly, like every time we wanted to play, we had to do a bunch of research to see what had changed and what we had to do differently and all this kind of stuff, and that's always a bummer, at least for me. I think it's gonna be very interesting to see if they change it at 11th edition. Most people who can do math are assuming that this year is going to be them at Adepticon announcing 11th edition 40K, because if you can add 3 to 3 years ago, then this should be the next one. Now, they could have decided for some reason, hey, let's not do 11th edition this year. Maybe they've decided to make it a 4-year thing. I'd be astounded if they did, but, stranger things, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be real interesting. But I've heard people say, I wonder if they're going to change Combat Patrol to make it more like Spearhead, aka on a tiny, tiny, tiny honking little board. That's the one problem I have with Spearhead, is it's on such a small board. It's basically on a kill team board, and it just feels kind of small. And I really don't know how well Combat Patrols would play on a 22 by 30 board. So I don't know. That's a good question. But I feel like they did Combat Patrol, learned some stuff from it, then made Spearhead, which I think has been a little bit more popular, maybe a little bit. I still hear about people playing Spearhead. I hear nobody playing Combat Patrol. So I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. Everyone is going to check them out after you mention them. Cool to shout them out. Shout who out? What? Who? Floor looks bigger. Am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they would have had to have moved it into a bigger room then. I don't know. That's a good question. I should ask Hank. Hank would know. Let's see here. I was busy trying to message potential future guests for my show. Nice. Let's see here. Good morning from a cool, dry, sunny Sussex, UK. Guess it's prime time to prime. Prime time to prime. Gotcha. Looking ahead, it's Salute London for us, whilst ChillCon occurs in Sheffield. I did see something on Facebook today about how ChillCon was going on this weekend. That's pretty cool. I grew up in Orlando. I escaped to Tennessee 6 years ago. Gotcha. Who else out of the Army Painter team is going to be there? So let's see here. I'll be there. Sam will be there. Phil will be there. Courtney will be there. She's the newest addition to the factory team, figuratively speaking miniatures, and she is from Canada, so we're hoping she can get in. But Peachy's not going to be there. Rob is not going to be there. Rob Metters. I think a big part of it is just nervousness about coming over to the United States from overseas, which I can totally get. And then Horace Heresy for Heretics, Heresy, he's not coming from Australia. Maybe someday. But so yeah, it's mainly really going to. Oh, and then also Jake and Dave. So that's the other the podcast, Build, Paint, Play, with Dave Taylor and Jake. They'll be there. So it'll really basically just be kind of the three originals, me and Sam and Phil, and then Jake and Dave, and then our newest member, Courtney. So, who I've not met in person. I've not yet met her in person. So that'll be nice. She's really good with airbrush, and she teaches airbrush classes and stuff like that. And so, yeah. But then otherwise, let's see who else will be there. Obviously, Kat and Caleb and Tim, who all work for Army Painter, and it's their job to go to shows. Right now, they're actually here in Wisconsin because they're at Garycon, which is this big role-playing game convention that's in Lake Geneva, which is where TSR, the company that started Dungeons and Dragons, it's where Dungeons and Dragons was invented, was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And so there's this big convention called Garycon. It's called Garycon because of Gary Gygax, who lived right there in Lake Geneva. And but yeah, that one's 3,000 or 4,000 people, I think, and it's all role-playing stuff. I don't know if there's any famous people there this year, but years past, they've had people like, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine usually comes. Vince Vaughn has come before. That Joe Manganiello, or whatever his name is. Allegedly Vin Diesel's been there, but I'm not sure. There's a really big wrestler that's been there. It's either Triple H or The Big Show. I don't remember, but he's like, I don't know, nearly 7 foot tall, like big, huge dude. But yeah, so they're there right now, Kat, Caleb, and Tim. And then they will basically then come straight from there to Milwaukee. And who else is going to be there? Adam is going to be there. Adam's in a lot of the videos and stuff like that. You guys know Adam from Army Painter. And then I think there's a couple of people from corporate, from overseas headquarters over in Denmark. Ian, I think, will be there. He used to work for GW. He worked for GW for like 25 years, and now he's the director of marketing or something like that. Head of marketing, director of marketing, chief marketer, I don't know. And another guy who I don't think I've met yet. But Bo's not going to be there. Thomas isn't going to be there. Tyler will be there. Tyler's American now, so it's going to be easy. Tyler Mengel is he's a staff painter and also like social media guy who works like full time for them as well. So yeah, so it'll be good. It'll be a good crew, I think. Fifth Angel Studio is the guy who rebooted the Mercs IP. You can get the new rules there probably. Derek Osborne? Is that Fifth Angel Studio? I didn't realize that was... Oh, okay. Because there's a Mercs booth, too. So it'd be weird that Fifth Angel and Mercs would be... Oh, hang on here. Fifth Angel Studios is 700, and Mercs is also 700. Oh, interesting. Okay, there you go. Yeah, no, I know Oz. But... oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I didn't realize that. I will play my first game of Star Wars Legion soon. Is there anything else I should take with me besides game elements? I asked in Polish group for Legion, but only got super glue as answer. I mean, generally, Army Painter has a little thing that they set aside at the edge of the booth that is like a little fix-it area for your miniatures, and they'll have like glue and clippers and things like that there. So if you're like, oh, my little flag broke off my guy, I need to reglue it or whatever, you can just come over there and it's like a little miniature hospital for your miniatures. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, comfortable shoes is an important thing. That's, you know, that's what I find is one of the most important things, honestly. See if you can find Gasland's Mike Hutchinson. Ask him about Space Kits. Gotcha. Anyone else going to CNYCon in June? I'm not familiar with that one. AdeptiCon Epic Armageddon Super Tourney is one of those North Building events. Yep. There are about a dozen of us who come every year to play. It's been long enough that it's gathering of friends. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's the really cool thing about it, you know what I mean? Go Gorth, see you at AdeptiCon. Absolutely. I found a Merck's rulebook at one of the newer bookstores locally. If anyone is looking for one, Novi, Michigan is the store location. Cool. I have the original one, and I think I have the 2.0 version of Mercs. I really enjoyed, especially the artwork. But yeah, I did enjoy that game, and the miniatures were great and everything like that. I wish it had continued to go on, but we'll see. Hopefully, those guys will get it running again. Do we think Combat Patrol will be updated to be more like Spearhead? I don't know. That's a good question. I was just talking about that. Warcrow book is almost entirely fluff and art. The rules are about 40 pages of it. Yeah, but it's still custom dice, which I'm just generally not into. Can't wait for orc reveals so I can use them for that Mike Hutchinson game. There you go. I saw on the app map, that's fun to say, a game called Thousands of Monsters. Never heard of it. No, I haven't heard of it either. That's interesting. Also a Trench Crusade box set. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to come out. Like they've already, you know, they already are like, hey, we've got these new boxes of Prussians coming out. They've already showed those. We know those are coming, but I'm assuming they're either going to announce something else or they might even have some of it in stock. I don't know what it might be. I don't know if they're going to do like a starter box or like a new faction or something like that, hopefully. Guardsman, are you on the Here Come the Bastards Kickstarter? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. He's a clever, silly fellow, that Mr. Hutchinson. I listened to him on a podcast. Whose podcast was it on? He might have been on the Hive Scum podcast at one point. But yeah, and I've watched some of his YouTube videos. I only have paper armies. Cool. How did the Galadark Season of Kill team not have a box of Gene Stealers versus Terminator, Instant Space Hulk revival? Yeah, a lot of people thought that's where they were going with that, and then they weren't. Yeah, I don't know. Bet those StarCraft minis would look great as OPR proxies. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they would. You could easily do something like that. Storing 3D printed terrain is being a massive problem in my house. I mean, I can understand that. If you print and print and print and print and print and print, and then all of a sudden you have so much terrain and you have to figure out where to put it, it can be an issue. Morning all, currently turning some Wargames Atlantic Aztecs into a Necromunda gang. Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. Any announcements coming out of AdeptiCon that we should be looking out for? Not that I've heard of so far, no. I mean, you know, none of the big things really get announced until Adepticon. They don't usually announce it before. I mean, well, maybe some companies do, but a lot of people like announce things at Adepticon. That's just kind of their thing. Combat Patrol will be much more like Spearhead when 11th edition drops more cards and underdog balancing mechanic. Interesting. Like, that's a thing I can do without, honestly, is the cards. I don't know. I'm not a big army game fan. Me neither. However, I'm crazy excited for StarCraft, the miniature game. Loved the first game as a kid. Can't wait to get the models and paint up some childhood. Sure. I mean, that's the whole idea of licensing, is that that's what you're looking for. As the person who pays for the licenses, you're hoping that you can get some nostalgia. Greetings from Peshtigo. How you doing? Excited for my first Adepticon. Any plans to make a pilgrimage to the Bronze Fonz statue in Milwaukee? I might, honestly, because it's not super far away from my hotel. Initially, I thought I was staying at the Doubletree, which is like maybe a block away. But now I'm staying at a different hotel that I forget the name of, and it's like 3 blocks away. But I think it's right across the river from the Bronze Fonz. So if the weather doesn't suck and if I've got the time, I might walk over there. I don't know. Honestly, I would much rather go to the big giant RoboCop statue, but that's in Detroit. I'm a much bigger fan of RoboCop than I am Happy Days, but I don't know, Bronze Fonz. That's fun to say, right? I mean, at the very least, you know what I mean? Is the StarCraft game going to have the tanks? That I don't know. Not that I know of. They should tell that on beforehand if they're extending 10th edition. Fans will rage. I think some fans will be like, okay, cool, you're going to extend it, and I don't have to buy all new stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I would be amazed if they decided to stretch it out. I'm almost positive they're gonna make 11th edition this year. But I don't know. They've been kind of quiet. Flora is bigger as GW is all in a Hall E. It could be. Finally doing the last details of my tank for Tanks for the Apocalypse. Nice, nice. Exhibit Hall is in Hall C and D this year. Yeah, that's what it says on the thing down at the bottom. 22 by 30 and 44 by 60 board choices by GW have destroyed the game mat choices for anyone shopping for any other game. 48 by 48, 48 by 60, etc. just no longer available except via special order. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was dumb, but I was right. It was dumb. They should have just stuck with what they stuck with, but they were like, no, let's just change things and make it weird and proprietary a little bit. And then I saw lots of people who were like taking their, 4x6 mats and cutting them down, and all that kind of stuff and everything. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's GW. Can't blame Peachy just on going through TSA. Oh, absolutely. I know. Oh, I know. Lake Geneva is the mecca of tabletop gaming. I mean, yeah, maybe. Henry Cavill. I don't think he's got any plans to go to Adepticon or Garycon either, really. I don't think he's as much of a role player as he's more of a miniature player. So I wouldn't go to Garycon necessarily in that situation. So it would be more likely for him to go to Adepticon or maybe Gen Con. I don't know, but yeah. I think aren't they currently still filming? I thought he was still filming Highlander, unless maybe they got done with that now. I don't know. Gen Con used to be in Lake Geneva back in the 80s. Absolutely. It started out, well, actually, it started there. It started there in 1967, I think. Yeah, I think it was 1967 is when it started in Lake Geneva at the Lake Geneva Horticultural Center, which you can still go and take a look at the Horticultural Center. It's still there. The 50th anniversary of Gen Con was in 2017, and they had a museum set up at Gen Con, like a 50th anniversary museum set up at Gen Con. And what they did was they recreated the horticultural center. So like somebody built the front door and the archway that go into the horticultural center and like mocked it up and made it look exactly the same as the actual horticultural center. And then instead of like building the entire building, they used like ropes, like when you rope something off, they got those ropes, they got this extendy pulley out like nylon things to like say, for when you're like trying to get a cue to go a certain direction and stuff like that. So they used those things to make the exact shape of the building. So this is how big the first Gen Con was. And they put that entire thing, and inside that kind of roped off area, and you could enter it through the front door and walk through, it was all kinds of cases full of like relics and like old pictures and old, programs and all kinds of old stuff talking about the years and years and years, 50 years of Gen Con. But they constructed that whole little mini museum on the 50-yard line of the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, Lucas Oil Stadium. And that's where it was. So like this little thing that they had was like, this is what Gen Con used to be, and here is what it is now. And this is just the second part of Gen Con. The first part is filling up the entirety of, the convention center across the street. And then it also uses all of the football stadium and all that stuff. And it also uses like every hotel, like, boardroom, conference room, whatever, for like 4 or 5 blocks in every direction. It's pretty massive. But it was just really cool to go through there. Todd Stashwick is there. He was a captain on Star Trek Picard. Oh, that's pretty cool. Everyone important is at Garycon right now. I believe Dan Ayub from Wizards of the Coast is there, along with Luke Gygax, of course, but I don't have much hope for Wizards of the Coast anymore. Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there at Wizards of the Coast land. It sounds real weird. So I picked up my first airbrush. What advice do you have for a first-timer trying airbrushing on minis? Number one, I would use airbrush paint because it's just easier. So many people are like, well, I got to, you got to thin your paints, that you use, and it's this, and it's how much do I have to thin it? You got to thin it like milk. Well, like 2% milk or whole milk or skim milk or, when I use Army Painter airbrush paints, I just stick it right in there and shoot it onto the model. It does not, there's no thinning, there's no messing around. It's really easy. So that will make your life easier. The most important thing is to always clean it as soon as you're done with it. Don't like spray and then be like, oh, cool, now I'm going to go paint it, or now I'm going to go do something else, or what. Take the 3 minutes and clear out your airbrush and clean it, and then it won't be clogged next time that you get together and do it. I will also tell you to keep not all of the airbrush, but the important parts of the airbrush, keep them in water all the time. When you're not using them, they stay in water. If your airbrush never dries out, it can never get clogged with paint. That's just the way it works. I've used that technique for a decade now on my airbrush, and I've never had trouble. I had a lot of people. I made a video about how to never clog your airbrush. You can find it on YouTube. And I had people being like, no, you're going to ruin your airbrush. And I'm like, well, that's weird, because I've been using it that way for a decade, a literal decade, and it's fine. So anyway, yeah. I literally never have a clog in my airbrush because I always clear it out, and it's always stored submerged in between whenever I'm not using it. Good snowy morning from Saint Jerome, Quebec. My wife and I have been blessed by Nurgle, and it's hitting us really hard. Yeah, my wife's got a cold right now, and I hope I don't get it from her in time to go to AdeptiCon. That'll suck. Have fun at AdeptiCon. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to go to this year, but life always happens. Didn't get a new 3D printer, so I'll just do that. Okay, all right. Driving up from East Tennessee to Central New York Con in June. Got VIP badges. I know the guy who runs it, so looking forward to it. It's OSR and OSR adjacent. That's cool. There is an AdeptiCon app. Yeah, sort of. So there's this app called Cvent, like letter C, like Charlie. There we go. I was like trying to remember. Yeah, so it's Cvent, V-E-N-T, C-V-N-T. And what you do is like they're like an event management company, or they're the company I think that makes the website for AdeptiCon or something. And so you find this Cvent app, you download it, and then it's like, okay, well, what event? And then you go, oh, AdeptiCon 2026, and it's like, okay, cool. And I did that, and I downloaded it, and then they're like, oh, then they say there's some stuff you can see, but if you really want to like have the functionality, they want you to log in. So I go to log in, and they're like, okay, put in your first name and your last name, and then put in your email. And you do that. And they're like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to send you a code. I'm like, sure. And I never got the code. It's not in my spam folder. It's just, I never got the code. So I'm like, oh, all right, well, there you go. So hopefully you'll have better luck than I do. Going from Salt Lake City. How goes it? Not too bad, Toast. I hope you're doing well. They teased some yesterday. Dragon hunting vibe might be the Abyss faction. Interesting. It's a Carcass front box. Heretic Naval Raiders for sure. I don't know. Oh, is that for Trench Crusade? Oh, okay. I don't know a ton about the lore because I'm not a lore guy. I mean, I know a little lore, but not a lot. Finishing the rules for Starship combat game based on capital ships. Cool. How you doing, Gaddis? Congrats to Gary Garsky. Osprey are publishing Space Weirdos 2nd edition later this year. It's true. And he's doing some other stuff with them too. So, I mean, and he recently did Void Fighters or whatever, which is a starship combat game. Space fighter, really, kind of combat game. He did that too. So that's pretty cool. Never let metallic flake paint gunk up your paint cups. It's a pain to clean out. the trick is just always clean your paint cup. Like just clean your airbrush when you're done. You know, you spray some stuff and everything and whatever. Like you kind of want to clear it out a little bit when you change colors too. But when you're just done, don't just be like, cool, it's done. I'll come back and clean this later. And then no, you just clear it out real quick. You know, it's not a lot of work. And again, like I said, if you store the body of it and the nozzly bits, you don't need to store the trigger or the back part with the spring and all that extra stuff. You don't need to keep the needle, like just the main body and then the nozzle bits. If they end up sitting in water, then they'll just never get clogged. Gen Con was massive indeed. Went for the first time in 2024. Yeah, it's these days they have to cap it at 72,000. So they actually sell out. They didn't used to sell out because they were just like, well, we'll just keep going until. And now, since right after the pandemic, they're like literally they have to cut it off because there's just not enough room anymore. They can't go bigger than 72,000 people. So what's going on? Wizards of the Coast, standard capitalism and shitification line must go up with a dash of call in the Pinkertons. From what I understand, and I don't know a ton about it, but they've basically kind of announced that I think that the rules are going to be mostly all digital and there's a subscription fee or something for going forward for D&D. And I'm like, really? All right, well, good luck with that. But I don't know a ton about it. I was at that Gen Con with the exhibit. Very cool. Yeah, 2017. I quit paying attention to Trench Crusade when they backed off sub-factions for Black Grail, but could make more for Antioch. I don't know what that means. Greetings from sunny Luxembourg. Just Rattlecan primed for the first time this year. Bunch of primed skeletons on 20mm square bases for 6th edition. Nice. I keep my airbrush in IPA, not beer, alcohol. That's probably a good idea. I think the beer would be gross. I know I've watched the airbrush video, but do you just unplug it from the airline and the rest in the container? Yeah. I take it off of the hose. And then, like I said, it's just mainly the body of it, which is like the front part and the cup and all that. So that's the body of it. That all goes bloop in the water. And then the nozzle parts. So like my airbrush has 3 main nozzle parts. There's like a cone, there's a thing that goes over the cone, and there's a thing that goes into the front that screws in that's basically like a needle guard. And all those bits go into the water. It's the internet. No matter what you're doing, some guy's always going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. That's fine. Chronic Toast says that's not true. see what he did there? There you go. Have you ever had to change fixed parts on your airbrush, worn seals, or needle? No, I've been using the same. I haven't. I've been calling it Iwata for years, but Courtney, that I mentioned before, she's the new member of the factory team. She works relatively closely with them, and technically it's Iwata. I always thought it was pronounced Iwata. I have a sticker here. It says, I assumed that means Iwata, but it's pronounced Iwata. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, I have an Iwata Eclipse. It's an HP-CS, but it's known as the Eclipse. And like I said, I've been using it for, at this point now, more than a decade. And have I ever had to replace anything? No. I thought I was going to probably bang up the needle at some point, but I've been relatively careful with it, so I haven't had to worry about it. I've had to tighten things once in a while. Like every once in a while, the bottom part that goes into the hose, right? So there's the airbrush goes this way and the sprays out that side. And there's a cup up here, right? And then there's a trigger bit. But there's that part that goes down that you screw into the hose. In there is like a little plunger type of thing. There's a spring. And then there's like a weird little disc that's threaded on the edges. And you screw it in. And it holds the plunger and the spring and all that stuff inside there. And every once in a great while, I've had that pop out, especially if I leave the thing, because I don't just leave my brush in water. It's fine if you do, but I also, technically the water is in a, what do you call it? One of those, hyper, I don't know. It vibrates real high. Ultrasonic. That's the word I'm like, hypersonic? No, that's not right. Ultrasonic. It's in an ultrasonic cleaner thing. So you just push the button and it makes that vibrating noise and stuff. The problem is if I run it too long, then sometimes that little disc at the bottom where it goes into it'll back itself out and unscrew itself, and then the spring and all that crap will pop out. So now I don't let it run for like a really long time. If I put it in, I put it in the water, I'll let it run for like 30 seconds and then I turn it off. And then I don't have to worry about it. But otherwise, you just have to put that part back together. It's not a big deal. But I haven't had any because the thing is a good airbrush is made out of like mostly, I don't know, brass or bronze or something like that, and it doesn't really rust. So I think really cheap airbrushes, I think sometimes maybe your spring might rust a little bit, but Northern Citadel, how you doing? Jim Fly Guy, how you doing? We'll be there for all 5 days for the first time. Last 2 years, I only went for 1 or 2 days. Gotcha. Southern Alberta, first time watching you live. Well, good to see you. I'm headed to AdeptiCon Tuesday evening, arriving sometime Wednesday. Besides the obvious massive vendor hall and some classes, any less known things to check out? I would tell you to go over to the North Building. Can I find a map of the entire, not just the visitor hall, badge types, charity partners, exhibitor hall, sponsors, event schedule, Golden Demon, merchandise, on-site app. No. Refund, registration. I don't see a map. So, here we go. I found one on Google. All right, poke. There we go. So, the main building. Okay, so this is the first floor of the Baird Center. This down here, this south building main entrance, this is, it's the main entrance. It says so right in the tin. This is the big, huge kind of brick, kind of like round thing that's and it's a big tower and stuff like that. It's got signs all over to electronic signs and stuff. That is the main area that you come in, right? Just FYI, this is the main door you come in, and right here is S103C, this big room here. This is where Vince and I are going to be doing the live podcast on Friday night. I did not realize that until relatively recently, but yeah, we've got a nice big room right here, which is going to be great. One of these rooms over here, I think, is going to be the Army Painter room, most of the time, and then that means that's also where the Trench Crusade preview is going to be. Over here in this kind of atrium area, this is what's now known as Fort Wapple. The reason they call it Fort Wapple is because back in the day, this couple, Jim Wapple and his wife, who's now, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, dang it, Kathy Wapple. They're both great painters, and they used to always, back when it was kind of in the more Chicago area, they would kind of always work towards setting up this area for tables to be able, or setting up tables for painters to come and hang out and be able to work on stuff that they needed to work on, everything like that. And it grew and grew and grew every year, and then eventually it was just called Fort Wapple. So Fort Wapple, which is over here, is where people go to hang out and paint and everything like that. And like I said, the Army Painter room will be somewhere over here, and all that stuff. Now this is the first floor. This is a road that goes through the building, right? If you were on the second floor, this building is connected, right? So if you're on the first floor on the south part of the building and you want to get to the north part of the building, it's generally a better idea just to go up to the second floor and walk across because it's all connected. But the reason I'm telling you this is what you should be looking for potentially is to get over into the north building, because this is where all the indie stuff is. So if you want to go to the Grimdark Alley, that's what this area is right here. Friday night, there's going to be a bunch of bits trading and selling going on over here. It's not the official Bits Bazaar. It's just a bunch of Grimdark folks who are going to be selling stuff. So if you go over there, 8 o'clock on Friday night, and you got some cash, you want to buy some cool models, I bet you'll be able to find a bunch of people over here. All these rooms over here are all going to be indie stuff. I think a lot of these rooms are going to be indie stuff. So many people hang out like in the south building or on the second and third floor because it goes all the way up to the fourth floor. It's a big thing. But a lot of people have a heart. They're like, I don't know where this is. And it's because you can't get there when you're on the first floor without going outside. But if you're on the second or floor or whatever, you can just walk across. Because like I said, cars are driving through this middle part here. So it's kind of weird to find. But finding all this indie stuff over there, if you're interested in, Mordheim, 1490 Doom, like there's tons and tons and tons of different events that are going on over there. I think there's a lot of one-page rules stuff that's going on over there. There's a lot of indie stuff that's going on over in this north building on the first floor. So go check that out. Let's see here. I've had to change the seals once, but it was relatively easy and cheap. Lots of guides online. Neil's can wear out, but I hear, but mine never have. Yeah, I've never worn mine out either. My airbrush dries out between color fillings, even if I'm fast. Wow. Snap-on paint guns are automotive paint guns. Oh, gotcha. Printing up a bunch of 1490 Doom terrain right now. Looking forward to my first game in it. Nice. I got to do that too. I've got the files, but I need to print it out. Printing, let's see here. Cvent login works just fine for me. Maybe try again. Yeah, I may have to. Hope to see you and say hi, Jeff, Seattle. Fingers crossed, no TSA issues. Yeah, I know what you mean. I will be, hang on here. Let me find my schedule. I will be in the Army Painter booth on Thursday from noon to 5. And then probably before, because the vendor hall, I think, opens at 10. So probably from 10 to noon, I will be going through the vendor hall looking at things and stuff. And then I'll be in the booth over at the Army Painter, which is, hang on, up here, 1104. That's where we are, right over here by Archon Studios and Trench Crusade. But I will be in the Army Painter booth from noon to 5 on Thursday. And then I will be in the Army Painter booth from 10 to 2 on Friday. And then there's a creator panel that we're going to have. I think it's probably going to be over on that south, over by the Army Painter room or something like that, like I was talking about before, over by Fort Wapple. The creator panel is from 3 to maybe 6, 3 to 5 or 3 to 6. And it's going to be me and Brent from Goobertown Hobbies and Hoodguard and I don't know, like 4 or 5 people, I think, total. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure we'll just be answering questions and stuff. So that'll be on Friday. And then the Snarlcast is from 8 until 9:30 on Friday night. Let's see here. Then on Saturday, I'm in the Army Painter booth from 11 in the morning until 3. And then there's going to be that big paint jam thing again back in the Army Painter room over by Fort Wapple. And that'll go from like 3 to like 8. And then from 8 to 10 is the Trench Crusade preview in that same room. And then on Sunday, whoops, there we go. Sunday, I will be in the Army Painter booth from 10 until noon. So there we go. Went to Hot Lead in Stratford, Ontario this week. A bunch of people playing some Napoleon-era troop games and what looked like a World War I plane game. A few neat vendors like MDF Train made locally. Oh, that's cool. Industrial hose / connector suppliers such as NZ are good for getting connection adapters for airbrushes and compressors. I have some Harder and Steenbeck ones, which I keep meaning to use, but I don't. These are like quick release. I bought some quick releases because Vince was like, oh, quick release is the way to go. So I bought some on Amazon or whatever, like a year or two ago. I have this thing with little microphones in it that's, anyway. And so this is the part that you attach to the hose, and this is the part that you attach to the bottom of the airbrush, I think, or vice versa. I don't remember. And they worked until they didn't. Basically, it worked. The quick release worked pretty well, and then all of a sudden one day it was just like, nah, dog, I'm just going to like blow air out the side no matter what you do. So then I had to take them off. So then Vince was like, well, you should probably get good ones as opposed to just crappy ones on Amazon. I'm like, well, that's probably true. So I picked these up at the Spray Gunner booth at Nova. I want to say it was this past year. It was back in 2025, which was the last Nova that I went to, and probably will be the last Nova I go to. But I haven't put them on the airbrush yet. I don't swap between airbrushes too much, so I don't need to quick release. So I've never quite, if I had like a bunch of airbrushes that I went between, then I guess it would make sense, but I don't. So I don't usually, worry about it too much, but. Have you seen the 6x3 cargo ship terrain Pendraken miniatures is teasing for an April release? It's both tabletop terrain and 2 game boards all in one. Be a fun game to game on. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah. Good time of day, Uncle Adam and Minions. Hope you have some quality hobby time, indeed. The Eclipse had a design patent issue where they forgot to renew it for a short period and it allowed other companies to make knockoffs legally. The Iwata is better quality, but if your budget's low, I paint minis when I have them, paint vehicles, mainly motorcycles, and I made crude attempts at canvas painting. Minis are my favorite thing to paint. It's more fun, sure. Hello from sunny Sweden. How you doing? Rip Kathy, indeed, yes. Jim is still coming to AdeptiCon. Kathy unfortunately passed away several years ago. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Weird that One Page Rules is still considered indie. I mean, they're still a really small company when you compare them to GW. Like GW has, I don't know. I mean, admittedly, a lot of them I think are also retail people, but I always hear that GW's got like 2,000 employees or something like that. But a lot of them I think are retail company, retail managers or whatever at the stores. But I would be surprised if outside of sculptors, because I think that they contract with sculptors and work with different sculptors and stuff like that. Outside of sculptors, I'd be surprised if they had 10 people working in that company. Yeah, it's still, I mean, like they do good business and they're all over the place and everything like that, but it's still a really small company. Gonna have to watch this live again, indeed. We're an indie producer, but probably on the 4th floor again. Gotcha. Good morning, Adam. You've had a good year with some more miniature products. I've got started using AK paints for the first time. They are moist from the bottle without water for dry brushing. I'm not an AK fan, but yeah. Rescued Ruckus, how you doing? Will you be at the creator meet and greet on Wednesday? Yes. Yeah. That's the plan. Yep. I don't know if I'll be there right at 5, but yes, I will be there. Is Goobertown still doing videos on YouTube? I've not seen one for a bit. I think he's slowed down a little bit, but he's got this company now, him and Casey from eBay Miniature Rescue. They've both started a company. They're going to be at AdeptiCon. What booth are they in? They're in booth 806. It's called Goblin Hobbies. That's the company they've started. And they make these, it's like nail art, but for your miniatures, right? So like it's a little metal plate, and it's got little designs on it and things like that. And then you put this stuff on, this paint that kind of looks like it comes in a bottle that looks like nail polish. It looks like a nail polish bottle, but whatever. So you put a little bit of that on there, and then you have this little clear silicone stamp. And then so you've put the goop onto the plate. You wipe it away with a piece of plastic. You transfer the piece of artwork, maybe it's like a cool skull or whatever, onto the thing, and then you take your miniature and you go, and then you stick it onto the miniature. And so it's like I said, it's basically like nail art, fancy nail art where they do the thing where they put it on this plate and they stick it to the thing and then stick it to your nail, and now you got cool stuff going on your nail. And someone didn't have to hand paint it. It's like kind of like a stencil, but not exactly. So anyway, they took that technology and they've been using it in miniatures. So instead of having to come up with like not a sticker, but those decals and stuff like that, the water slide decals and all that, you can just use this. And it's a cool concept. So they had a booth last minute at AdeptiCon last year. I'm 98% sure. I think they sold out everything that they brought. And then they were at Nova, and I think they sold out everything they brought. And I don't. I'm assuming they'll probably do real well again this year at AdeptiCon. So I think that part of the business has made him slow down a bit on videos, maybe. I know I've seen some stuff come out of Casey's channel a little bit here and there, but yeah, I don't think that Gooberton's done a video in a bit because he's been busy with the other business. You're going to AdeptiCon this year, new miniatures in another new year, and paints probably. Yeah, maybe. Agreed. Quick release on all airbrush bits is a must. I've used an Iwata quick release. It has yet to fail with me. I've never seen that one made by Iwata. Like I said, the best ones I've found have been harder in Steambeck, but I've never seen one actually made by Iwata. I think that he's flat out with Goblin Hobbies at the moment. Yep, yeah. I think that Goobertown's real busy with that stuff. Will you recording Q&A with YouTubers again? I don't know. That came up yesterday during the Patreon show. Like, I'm going to shoot footage, obviously, while I'm there and things like that, but I don't know if I'm going to, like, interview people necessarily. We might do, if we can find the time, I would love to do 2 interviews for the podcast. One would be Thomas Piernan from Trench Crusade / Mordheim and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one, I really want to interview Steven from the Hive Scum podcast, who made Flames of Orion, the mech game. I want to see if we can get an interview with him. But the problem is timing. It's always just like I'm going to be kind of swamped. Especially like Friday for me is basically like, God, I don't know, like 9 in the morning until 9:30 at night. I'm pretty much booked the entire time. So yeah, it's gonna be a hoot. What happened to Nova? The quick story is that there's what do you call it? A big painting competition, probably one of the best painting competitions in the United States, in my opinion, called the Capital Palette. And tons and tons of well-known judges, great people running it, all this kind of stuff. Last year at the show, 2025, somebody entered a piece, a small diorama, and some of the people who own the convention, Nova, did not appreciate the piece of artwork. They did not agree with it politically, let's say that. And so they were like, I don't think that this should be in the painting contest. And the people who are running the painting contest, who are all volunteers, by the way, from what I understand, were like, well, there's nothing in the rules that says it can't be, and so so they put it in, and then it won People's Choice, strangely enough, and so people liked it, and then internally, there's like a whole group of people who all are owners to some degree of the convention. It's not just like owned by one person. It's owned by, I don't know, 8 or 10 different people. And the people that were running the convention and were like the faces of it for the most part to some degree, kind of got kicked out, I guess, or something happened. They're no longer running, or the faces of the convention. I think they're still technically maybe partial owners, but and it's a whole thing. And they've been real weird about it. And they're like, they'll post stuff on like Instagram and then like no comments about it, just like this and that and the other thing. And there's just a bunch of stuff that's going on. And so the people who've run the convention or run the painting competition, they quit, and the main guy who ran like all of the painting classes, he was the organizer that made sure all the different painter teachers all had the rooms they needed and this and that and the stuff they needed and all that. And he'd been doing it for years. He quit. And like just all kinds of people, friends of mine that I know, are all like, we're not working with these folks anymore, and they quit. And it's a bummer. So yeah, a lot of people I know aren't going to Nova anymore. But there's a podcast called the 40K Badcast, which they have an episode maybe a month or so ago that really explains it all in much more detail, much more than I've got. So I would, if you're real interested, I would check out that episode they talk about the Nova Open and stuff like that. Like I said, it's maybe February or June or January. It's either February or January when their episode came out, but it's pretty in depth. So I would check there. But yeah, so that's the bummer about Nova, because I really loved that convention, and I'm bummed that I'm not going to be going probably in the future anymore. How much workers maximum to still get you called to indie? I don't know. I don't remember. Did Vince and I talk about that? Did we have can't remember if we had an episode where we talked about what makes it somebody indie. I mean, I feel if you have an HR department, you're probably no longer indie. Like, some people will be like, anything that's not Games Workshop is indie in our industry. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like Steamforge Games, I don't think they're indie per se. Asmodee obviously is not indie. I would say that, like, well, Army Painter doesn't make games, but let's say they did, they're not indie. There's I don't know, probably 100 people that work for Army Painter over in Denmark. I don't know. I wouldn't say that Warlord Games is indie. You know what I mean? I would say Blackout is probably still indie because they're a pretty small group. I'm just looking at the Exhibitor Hall list now. Let's see here. Blacksite Studios, I would say they're still kind of indie. You know what I mean? I don't know. Different people have different ideas of what indie is. Like Vince and I are definitely indie because there's just the two of us and we have other jobs. You know what I mean? This is not our bread and butter. Gale Force 9, I would not say they are indie. Archon, not indie. I would say Trench Crusade is at the point where they're almost not really indie anymore either. I think if you're making hard plastic miniatures, I think it's difficult to say that you're indie. I don't know, maybe not. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a value judgment. It's a classification more than anything, I think. So saw a video talking about a new Wargames Atlantic kit of a vehicle, an APC, looked pretty cool. Oh, I haven't seen that. I've seen Archon's vehicles, but I didn't realize that Wargames Atlantic made a tank for their Quar line, the little anteater guys, but that's maybe different. Any news from new games or expansions you are working on for Snarling Badger? We'll be announcing our next game at AdeptiCon, at the podcast. So when the podcast goes live on the web and stuff, so you can like listen to it and watch it or whatever, or like on YouTube, then you'll be able to find out what it is. So, what's wrong with AK? I don't like their company. They've if you just type in AK Interactive controversy into YouTube or into Google or whatever, you'll find out. I think I just swallowed a bug. There's been a tiny gnat flying around in here, and I think I just got rid of it. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and then I'm like, something hit me in the back of the throat. They have done things in the past. They've made these painting guides. They made a painting guide about how to paint concentration camps, like for dioramas and things like that. And when people were like, maybe that's not necessarily, then they like double down on that kind of stuff. And it's just, I'm just not working with them. I'm not buying into their products. I don't like AK Interactive for that, but you can find out more online. Army Painter speed paints have allowed me to go through so much of my Zombicide backlog, from Zombicide Invader to Zombicide 2nd edition to Marvel Zombies. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, speed paints are good. I use them all the time. I don't necessarily use them to create speed, like to make things faster, but I guess sort of I do, because I'm usually like doing a zenithal and then putting speed paint over it. Whereas if I was trying to like build up, what do you call it? Layers of like gradients and stuff like that, it's harder to do just with straight opaques, building and wet blending and like, going from darker to lighter or whatever. So yeah, I guess it does speed things up that way, but I don't like do it like just slop stuff on to make it speedy, obviously, which you probably don't do either. But I made that video last week earlier this week about, slowing down, but I later on I was like, I didn't mention that I do still use speed paints even when I'm trying to be a little bit slower. You know what I mean? I started watching the video but gave up as the creator announced that he was going to spray the sprues black before assembly. Whoa, that's crazy. They sell nail stamp tech with stencils designed for minis. Kinda. That's basically what's kind of going on with Goblin Hobbies, yeah. I want to try 10 mil minis to paint, but I don't know how well I would do. 40K scale is easier to see. Yeah, I mean, the little, that's one of the reasons why I'm not into small, like, scale stuff. Like, Battletech is different because, you know, yeah, it's 6 millimeter, but your mech is still, like, yay big. The 6 millimeter stat is if you were painting people, they would be very tiny, right? But you're usually not painting people. You're usually painting mechs, which are big. So, you know. Let's see here. A while back, you were working on Splizzards on Twitch. What models were those? Might have to use them for Space Lizard soon. Those are from One Page Rules. Yeah, they're the Saurian Star Host. It's like Saurian, like dinosaur. So Saurian, Saurian, Star Host. Yeah, they're basically sci-fi. They're kind of like, well, they're sort of like lizard men, you know, like us. What do they call them, Seraphon or whatever from Age of Sigmar, except that they're sci-fi. They're, you know, designed for whatever that game's called, Grimdark Future. And yeah, so if you go onto their website, you could probably find the STL files if you want to print them or have a friend print them or whatever. But they will also start selling those models like in plastic. Well, yeah, in plastic. It's technically a different type of PVC or something like that. It's not, what do you call it? Yeah, it's not Ceocast. It's something else. It's like a hard PVC basically. And I wonder if they're going to have, I don't know if, because I know they're going to have a booth at AdeptiCon. I'm 98% sure. Yeah, 1404. So they're, oh, just kind of around the corner from us. And they're like, they're, hang on. So if Army Painter is here at 1104, and this big, huge booth is Archon, and this is Trench Crusade, 1404 over here is, this is the One Page Rules. So what I'm wondering, and I don't know this yet, but I'm wondering if they're going to be selling their new box set, because they have this new 2-player box set that's coming out called Broken Truth, and that's where the lizards are coming from that I was painting on Twitch. So, love the idea of Goblin Hobby's stamping kit, but unfortunately, it's still not available in Canada despite more distant countries being added. Well, that's weird. I wonder if there's some sort of strange things going on with U.S. versus Canadian mail and that kind of jazz, you know. What price range would be best for a first airbrush kit? I think on Amazon there's a Masters airbrush kit that is a compressor and a thing. What do you call it? A compressor and a airbrush. Masters airbrush kit. About $129 is how much that kit costs, and it comes with well, I don't know how well you can see this. It comes with a airbrush and a compressor and a hose and a bunch of paints and stuff like that. But that's not a bad. It's not a bad setup. The Master's not bad. Like, I prefer the Iwata, but especially if you're just starting out, like, that entire kit is cheaper than an Iwata. I think an Iwata costs just the airbrush is maybe $160, maybe something like that. I don't know. I have to check. But yeah, that's something to think about. Stamping just feels way more complicated than any decal transfer. I think it's speedier overall, And I think that's the benefit. I also think I've never had any luck putting a decal on a shoulder pad. You know what I mean? Like I've just never had luck doing it. And this is easier to do because it's so much more flexible and rubbery, you know. Like when you're using that stamp, that clear silicone stamp, you're actually looking through the stamp at it so you can like line up the shoulder pad and then just be like boop, and then you can just put it right where you want to because the thing is crystal clear. Um, I've I don't know. Personally, I've had bad luck sometimes with if it's just something flat, I can usually put a water slide decal on something flat and it works out pretty well. But if it's like curved, like a shoulder pad, like a Space Marine shoulder pad, ugh, no, I've not had great luck. So the trick to the stamping stuff from Goblin Hobbies is that speed is a necessity. When I first started messing with it, I'm like, this is not working for me. And then I sat down with them at Nova last year because they had a booth there. And I'm like, this is the problem I'm having. And they're like, oh, you're not doing it quick enough. And I'm like, what? And they're like, from the time that you dab it onto the stamp to the time that you put it onto the model needs to be very fast. You can't be like, put it on here. What novel am I, or what model? Wait, this guy over here? Yeah, where am I going to put it on? Oh, I think I'll put it here. Oh, it doesn't work. Like you have to be like ready to go from the time that you stamp it onto the stamp, and then it's got to be like as quick as possible because it'll dry on the stamp very, very quickly. And then it won't want to, it'll come off because it's silicone. It's not going to stick to it, but it won't stick to the thing you're trying to stick it to. That's the problem. So once I figured that, or once they told me that, and then I started working with it a bit more, it works better. So. Let's see here. Scrolling. There we go. I'll be at AdeptiCon too, first time. Very cool. I just want to listen to Tabletop Minions stream and paint some miniatures. It's a simple life supported by gray plastic. I mean, sure. I mean, you know, I've got gray plastic myself. Speaking of gray plastic. So I've been working on this idea, right? So this is a little terrain piece. But if you've ever done any home improvement or if you're an electrician or something like that, you realize that this building is one of those things that you cut a hole in your wall and then you stick this in the wall and there's a bunch of wires that go in there and then you have maybe a light switch or plugs and stuff like that. It's an electrical box. So I bought this electrical box at a hardware store and I trimmed some of the stuff off and then I designed these pieces, these accoutrements, if you will, to stick to one of these things, right? So I've got a little door here. It's kind of cool. And so I designed this and 3D printed it. On the top, we've got whatever these are, just, you know, sci-fi greebly things. Here's some pipes, some vents over here. And then on the other side, on this side, we don't have a door, but we do have like an electrical box and just like this extra lump that gives it like a little bit more shape, right? So it's not just obviously an electrical box. Over here, we've got another 3 vent, and then we've got these little plugs that you can plug things into, whatever. So I designed all these parts, printed them out, glued them in one of these things. I could prime this, go to town, and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But what I'm also thinking about doing is actually just designing this entire shape also in 3D so that when a person gets this file, they'll be either just like, I just want to print the whole thing, or they're like, well, I actually just want to use this part on my own scratch built, or this vent on my own scratch built, or the cool door on my own scratch built. Or they'll be like, well, you know, I won't have to waste as much filament, and then I can just go to the hardware store, buy the same type of box that this is. It's kind of called an old 2-gang box or something like that. And then, you know, print out the parts and glue it on there. So I'm still working on it, but I still need to fit. I need to design the overall shape. But then again, like I said, you could also take this part and put it on any other piece that you're working on or stuff like that. And that's when I get back from AdeptiCon, I want to finish this part up and everything, and then I'll put it on my Patreon. I'm starting to put some terrain pieces that I've been designing on the Patreon thing. And then in theory, you can buy them for like $3, which is the cheapest I can set the price, unfortunately, on Patreon. Or if you support the Uncle Adams or Regulars level Patreon, which is my $4 a month level, then you get access to all of them for free, and then you can do that too, which is cool. So, but yeah, it's neat. Again, gray plastic. So there you go. I used to use black filament, and then I switched to gray because what I found is when I used black filament and I would prime it black, I couldn't tell if I got the primer everywhere. So now when I'm printing things out and I print them in light gray, when I use black primer on them, I can tell whether I got the primer everywhere. So that was good. Let's see here. If you saw Mantic's resin casting cowshed, you would be okay with still calling Mantic indie? I mean, that could be, sure. What about Osprey / Northstar Minis? Well, Osprey is owned by a much larger publishing company. Osprey Games is technically owned by Osprey Press, and Osprey Press is owned by a much larger publishing company. So I would not say they're indie particularly. I mean, honestly, Osprey just got into games maybe a decade ago. Previous to that, Osprey was around and you bought Osprey books because they would have like stuff that was gaming adjacent. You'd be like, oh, I need to know how to paint my Napoleonic dudes. Like, what color should their pants be? And they would have like books about that kind of thing. Not just pants, but you know what I mean. And so it was maybe only 10 years ago that they got into games and started Osprey Games and started making those blue books, like Gaslands obviously being one of the most famous ones. Sea Dog Game Studios, very indie, sure. Trench is definitely transitioning to not indie and excited to see what's next. I mean, you know, they had that Kickstarter. They raised $3.3 million initially, but then with add-ons and stuff like that, they probably went to 6 or 7 million. And yeah, it's kind of hard to still be a bit indie when you go down that road. Like, I personally think, and I haven't really talked to Vince about this, but if we had a Kickstarter that raised $6 to $7 million, I would like to think that what we would have done was fulfill all of the requirements to all the people and get all that stuff, get everybody who bought stuff and and get it out to them and be good people about doing that. And then after that, retire. Just like take the rest of the money and be like, we're not going to make any more stuff. We've gotten you the things you paid for. Now it is time to retire. Like, that's what we would have done, probably. Maybe not Vince, but I would have definitely pushed for that. But you know, Thomas and Mike and Jamie, I was going to say Jesse, but that's not his name. Jamie and a lot of they're like, well, we've now got enough capital to work with that we can start moving into plastics. Like, they moved into plastics. It was a year. It's a little bit less than a year from the time that the end of the whatever you call it, the Kickstarter. From the end of the Kickstarter to the time when the Prussians came out was about a year, which is pretty quick. GW takes 2 years minimum from the time that they have a twinkle of an idea in their eye to the time that the plastics come out. It's at least 2 years. So that's pretty good. I was pretty impressed by how quickly they got that stuff out. It's tough to separate politics and art. The painting side of the hobby is for sure an art in most cases, sure. If you need to be able to live with some politics in the hobby, just my thought. Yeah. Modifius is definitely not. Yeah, I would say Modifius is not indie either, no, for sure. Regarding what's indie or not, if I remember on the podcast, you mentioned that indie companies are like pornography. Hard to define, but when you see it, you know it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Nova situation is sad. I get why the owners felt a need to be careful about political messages. The government is cracking down hard on government employees. I mean, are any of them government employees? I guess maybe some of them are. I don't know. It was handled really poorly, and it caused a cascade effect that caused a lot of people who I'm friends with to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to work with them anymore. So I get behind that. Chilling with an espresso and the AOS Spearhead rulebook here in gray, foggy Toronto. Well, that sounds like a good time. What is everyone's tricks for OSL painting? I don't have a spray paint gun, so I have been trying to attempt first with my brushes. I've never gotten OSL to work without an airbrush. To be fair, I've probably not really tried particularly, so I'm not the right person to ask on that, unfortunately. I'm generally like, when I do OSL, I do it with an airbrush. So yeah, I don't know, but other people here might have a good idea. TT Combat Strike Team tanks will be on Wargames Atlantic plastic. Nice. Wargames Atlantic and Archon, I think, are doing great plastics. And also, obviously, the... I swear to God, that bug is still bothering me. Also, the stuff from... what's his name there? Stargrave, Frostgrave, etc. North Star minis. I think the owner of North Star is going to be at AdeptiCon this year. Nick Erie, something like that. Relic Blade is making plastic now. Also true. Hard to argue that Sean is an indie. Yeah, I mean, up until the plastics, he made everything. He designed the games, did most of the artwork, did the sculpting. I think he cast all the models in metal, all that stuff. Yeah. I don't find these kind of definitions very useful most of the time. But no, I totally get it. Whether something's indie or not, oh, well, that's not indie. I'm not interested. I don't want to necessarily go down that road personally, but it's something you need to think about sometimes, but I don't know that it's something you need to act on. Let's say that. I think more often than not, indie is a, I hate to say excuse, but, we have people from time to time who are like, I don't know why you're not doing this and this and this with your game company. And I'm like, because it's just the two of us. And Vince has got another job. I've got, Anna, he's got a YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel working with Army Painter and this game company. So, it's not like we can go to the board and say, well, we need more funds so that we can do this and that. No, it's just the two of us. So we're very indie. So yeah, it's kind of like miniature agnostic. When people, I use the term miniature agnostic. I don't want to say I use it as a warning, but it's a classification that definitely lets you as the potential player understand you're going to have to do a little bit of work here to figure out what models you want to use. It's not just like, oh, here's the game and here's the models that you're supposed to use. So, there you go. It's all figured out for you. Miniature agnostic is like, technically any game can be miniature agnostic. You can play Warhammer 40K with pennies, whatever, it's fine. But when a game is miniature agnostic, instead of saying, well, you have to do this or whatever, it's just saying, we don't have models made up for the game. That's the trick. That's what miniature agnostic means, is not that, oh, look at all the fun you get to have making whatever kind of models you want. And a lot of people love doing that. On the other hand, it's basically just going, we don't have models for you, so you're going to have to figure it out. That's really what I look at miniature agnostic. I don't see that as a bad thing, because I love that. But there are some folks out there that are like, if I don't know what the models are supposed to be, then I don't know if I want to play the game. And that's fine too, Everybody's got different vibes. Wargames Atlantic will soon release an APC kit for the Damned. Oh yeah, I think I heard about that. At this point, I've only had the time. I got the Damned finally. My Damned showed up. And I've built 3 models so far. Like, I just have been so busy because I've been doing a ton of terrain for our next game project, because I'm going to be doing a bunch of photography with this terrain that I've printed and then a bunch of models and stuff like that. And those pictures are going to be in the book, and I'll be shooting all that stuff when I get back from AdeptiCon. But I was painting and printing and all this and everything. And then unfortunately, the Damned guys got pushed to the side a little bit. But when I get back, once the game, yeah, well, I'm looking forward to making a bunch of different war bands with them, because there's a lot of different options in that stuff. I'm hoping I'm going to make a video about it once the stuff's available for people to buy, who didn't do the game found or whatever. Mantic is a larger company, but it has an indie feel. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, when Ronnie Renton still works the booth at the conventions, punk rock is still there. Oh, sure. Ronnie's a good guy. Where did I see him last? Gen Con. Yeah, it was me and Adam from Army Painter, and we went into a bar, and then Ronnie and a bunch of the other guys from Mantic came in, and then we all sat together and had some cocktails. Have you taken a look at the new Relic Blade Plastic Battle Pigs? Plastic Battle Pigs is a lot of fun to say. I like that, the group of 3 words. It's pretty cool. I think I saw a picture, but I've not seen them in person. So I'm looking forward to seeing them in person at AdeptiCon. Dipping technique would be very useful for painting 10 millimeter. Yeah, I think so. Here's the deal. I used to dip way back in the day when I first started. Not when I first started. When I first started, I was painting with testers and enamels in the square glass bottles on BattleTech miniatures. And that was not great. But when I first got into like regular miniature painting, I did think, well, I should try to speed it up some. So I went to like, the hardware store and I bought some Minwax and dipped the stuff and all that kind of jazz. These days, I would tell you to buy the Army Painter Quick Shade is what they call it, but it's basically their dip in a can. And the reason I tell you that is honestly, it's because it's a lot thinner than the stuff from the hardware store. Like in comparison, it's considerably thinner, which I think is a good thing overall. But I would not actually dip my models. I would actually brush it on. You get so much more control when you brush that stuff on versus if you take the model and you literally dunk it in the can and pull it out. Because when you do that, you have so much extra on there that you don't need. So you waste a whole bunch of it. Like back in the day when people were using Minwax, they would like put a screw into the bottom of their miniature somehow. And then you would dunk it into the stuff and then go out in your backyard and have that screw put into a drill and then spin it so that it would shoot all the extra stuff all over your yard or whatever. I don't know. And that was considered like a good idea and fast. And you're like, oh, all I have to do is just attach screws to all my miniatures and then I can just go dunk, dunk, and I'm like, or you could just use a brush and put the stuff on there and then, you don't put too much on. Probably don't waste as much of the stuff and it saves time and all that stuff. So there's nothing wrong with using the quick shade stuff. I don't use it myself, but I can totally understand the use for it. But I would still brush it on. Adam and I were talking about this. We would both brush it on. Bo is still like, no, you should dip it. And we're like, just brush it on. But that's the way I look at it. And for 10 millimeter guys, because they're so small, yeah, it would totally work. I love Army Painter, but it's kind of hard to get in my place. Oh, that's a bummer. Finally, there's the website. If you can order it from the website, if you can't find it like locally at a shop, if you order from the website, if you use offer code FACTORYUNCLE5, all one word, FACTORYUNCLE5, 5 is the number, not the word, then you get 5% off. That's hence the 5. You get 5% off your entire order from the Army Painter. Just FYI, if you want to get 5% off of your and also it's an affiliate link, so it helps me out a little bit too. Use offer code FACTORYUNCLE5 at checkout. There you go. Finally got a couple of bottles of AP Fanatic paints, and they seem as great as everyone was saying. I think they're awesome. I'm really super impressed by the quality of them, the density of them. They just keep spreading and spreading and spreading, and I like it a lot. I like painting epic scale miniatures, a lot less detail to fuss about, as long as you have decent vision. Wouldn't dipping be the problem for 10 millimeter on details? 10 millimeter models don't have a ton of details. I think that's maybe part of it too. Last year OPR were our neighbors. Oh, cool. Dip after base coat for shadows, then add highlights. Yeah, I mean, you can. This year, Duncan's Too Thin Coats is across the aisle and Iron Wind is right behind us. We're in booth 607. Cool. Mantic and Army Painter were catty corner to us. Nice. Got to bounce, do some rattle canning, have a good stream? Absolutely. Chronic Toast, good to see you. I use that master compressor too. It's solid. Oh, hey Kevin, how you doing? Yeah, like I said, I've had this same compressor now that I bought. I think I got it from what's that place? That place I don't like to go anymore. Hobby Lobby. Yeah. I think the compressor, it's a Sparmax TC2000 or something like that. That's the compressor that I use, and I've had it from them forever. The reason I bought it from Hobby Lobby was at the time was because they used to have a 40% off coupon. You could get one thing that was not on sale, like 40% off. So I bought my compressor with it. And secondly, it was back before they bought all those, like, I don't know, Iranian relics and then like smuggled them out of the country or whatever the heck, all that jazz. So that's why I don't go back to Hobby Lobby. But and also they don't have that coupon anymore either. So but yeah, it's a good compressor and it's done me well for, like I said, more than a decade. But the Masters stuff, like that's always, like, Vince has always talked about how he's got a whole video about like getting into airbrushing and which airbrushes to buy. And I know that he suggests the master stuff. So that's what I suggest. Also suggest Iowa Eclipse solid performance. And you get a 2-gallon shop. Like my first compressor was from the hardware store. It was like, I think they called it a pancake compressor. It had like it was a big red thing and it had like a 2-gallon tank attached to it. And it was really loud and then it would turn off. And then you would just be spraying and spraying and spraying and spraying until you like sprayed enough of the tank out. Then it would kick back in again and scare the crap out of you because it was really loud and it had been quiet for a while. And you were like spraying, you were like, and then it would, oh, Jesus. And that thing was like $60 and it worked great until it stopped and then it didn't work anymore. So that's when I bought an actual airbrush compressor. But the other thing too is buying like a hardware store compressor like that too that's not an airbrush compressor is I had to get a bunch of weird Frankenstein fittings to go from the like, hardware store compressor down to the right size hose basically and all that stuff. But once you did that, it was okay. Kit looks like it comes with a good compressor, not something you'd want to have to upgrade. Yeah. Sean never hand casted his metals? Oh, I thought he did. I thought he was spin casting stuff in his shop. Well, that's good that he wasn't, because that's can be you or maybe I'm thinking of Zombie Smith, the Quar Games guy before they made plastics. They were spin casting their own stuff. Because I remember having a conversation with somebody at a convention and he talked about how he had special jeans that he would have to wear when he was spin casting because they were full of holes from getting burns in them from the spin casting. I'm like, I don't think it's working right if that's the case then. People are always telling Sean that a Relic Blade comic book would be really awesome, not knowing that Sean quit drawing comics to make Relic Blade. Well, there you go. Yeah. How you doing, Malev? Hope you're doing well. I hope to see you at AdeptiCon. Peachy Tips has a video with non-airbrush OSL in it. Worth a look after this. Yeah, probably so. Slept in and missed so much. Hello from Phoenix. We were 103 yesterday. Well, that'll make me sleepy. That sounds like no fun. Thanks for the tip on OPR StarQuest. It's a sweet spot for a gamer with no budget and lots of minis. There you go. See? Yeah. I'm way behind. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Once you get the hang of the stamping method, it is way faster than traditional transfers. I would think so. Trench starter set with rulebook, playmat, terrain, and 2 factions might sell like a hot cake. Hot cake. It's also UV activated stamping gel that gives you more control of the drying time. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. That's an electrical box. Yeah. Well, clever DIY building for miniatures. I'll have to look into it. Put an electrical box on an electrical box. I mean, kind of did, yeah. As to the electrical box, I have a bunch of Greeblies on my mini factory too. Nice. It's a good way to build up buildings. I made a Greeble shed as well. That's a good idea. I mean, the Greeblies are a lot of fun. If you're looking to, like, especially if you're scratch building stuff, if you like to like build stuff out of, like, I don't know, like foam core or Sintra or whatever, but you're just like, you build a building or something like that, and you're like, it just doesn't have any stuff on it. Yeah, go and find some 3D printing stuff or whatever. I mean, you can just stick a bunch of plastic crap to it that you maybe have lying around the house. I know I have a tendency to save. Do I have any in this drawer? I think they're all in the drawer down in the basement. Like anytime that you get a like an HDMI cable, there's always that little plastic thing that they put over the end of it that you pull off and you're never going to use again. And I usually chuck them into a drawer somewhere with the idea that I'm going to glue them to buildings and stuff later on and make something out of them. But evidently that's only downstairs and not up here. Anyway, but yeah. Two Gang Old Work Box. That's technically what's it called. Yep. Electric box is a good idea. I still use soup can storage tanks. Nice. Osprey's been around for years. They had a lot of reference books for historicals. That's what I was trying to say. Let's see here. I was introduced to Osprey Publishing through their series of history of conflict books back in the 80s. Nice. Going to be sad if you retire. Would love to hear more about hobby and creations from you. I mean, we're not going to do a Kickstarter, so there's no chance of that happening. But like I said, if we had come up into that amount of money, we would have like fulfilled everything that we were required to fulfill. And then I would have been like, we probably would have had at least if I had to guess, if they were between 6 and 7 million at the end after people did their pledge manager stuff, and because like I only kicked in $5. When I backed their Kickstarter, I only put in the $5 level, knowing that once it was finished, then I could go back in the pledge manager and go, I want to get this and this and this. So I didn't get the book because I was like, but I did get all the Trench Pilgrim STLs, all the, what's the other ones? Trench Pilgrims, Heretic Legions. Those are the two factions that I backed. And then the terrain set and a bunch of the extra stuff, like the little guns and relics and all those extra STLs and all that jazz. So all told, I think it was close to about $200. But I just initially put in the 5, which is why you'll see these big Kickstarters where like the Kickstarter ends and it's this much money. But then when everybody starts like, beefing up what they're actually buying, then it goes up higher. So after everything was all said and done, they might have had a couple of $1 million. They might have had $2 million still sitting around, which is how they then started the rest of the company, and they're going forward with all that. That's the what they're banking on to be able to continue to build the company. But if it was Vince and me, I'd be like, well, we could just split that 50-50 and then we could just retire. It'd be great. But that's because sometimes I'm lazy, I guess is what it is. And so, that's cool. I actually caught you live for once. Well, that's good to hear. Going to AdeptiCon for the first time this year. Hope to get a chance to say hi. Absolutely. I'll be in and out of the Army Painter booth and all over the place probably, but yeah. Is there double duty terrain? So terrain you can use for storage or transport of minis? Yeah, probably, but I can't think of anything. I know one of the viewers in the channel, the Noob Painter is what he goes by, although he is no longer a noob by any way, but that's what happens when you come up with a name sometimes. He has been sculpting stuff, like 3D sculpting stuff for Alpha Strike, I think for Alpha Strike. And he made some hills that are kind of like nested so that when you're done, you can like put the small hills inside the medium hills and the medium hills inside they're like hollow, and then that way you're not like, they kind of store each other sort of, kind of like nesting dolls. Also, excuse me, I know that the folks over at Death Ray Designs have some buildings that also do that same thing. You've got like a bunch of different buildings for their game Steel Rift, and like the smallest building goes inside the medium building, and then the medium building goes inside the, and then it takes up less space when you're done and you want to store the stuff, which is also smart. I mean, a station wagon for Gaslands like the one in Escape from New York. Nice. Have you played Blood Bowl? If so, did you enjoy it? I haven't played Blood Bowl in years and years and years. I played first edition a little bit, but it's never been quite for me, though to be fair, I'm not a sports guy. What do you think of the price point for STL's files for Trench Crusade? I don't find them to be crazy. I know some people are like, oh, they're so expensive. And I'm like, they're really well done for the most part. I've never had any trouble with them. I don't think that they're overpriced, but I think that a lot of people are like, well, if it's a 3D print, I should pay nothing for it. And I don't, if you want good sculpts from decent people and stuff, I think you got to pay a little bit of money. Like I buy a lot of STLs, which every once in a while there's some of the comments who's like, oh, I can't believe you buy STLs. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure you probably pirate them all. That's great. You're not supporting the people who make the art that you like when you do that. But, you know, go with it, keep on going with your bad self. I'm not saying that you're doing that. I'm just saying in general, I don't have a problem with their prices. Yeah, I can't think of any. I haven't been like, I mean, I can't think of ever like looking at an STL like and going, oh, well, that's very expensive. I'm not going to pay that. I'm like, I don't know. And their stuff's not that expensive, in my opinion. Isn't like the entire warband like $30? I think. I don't know. I just bought. What did I just buy from them? I just bought the Black Grail stuff, and I think I didn't buy the warband because, like, in the warband there was like a model that I wasn't sure if I was missing it or not, or so. I think it was the little dog guys with the big tummies. I think I bought that separately so that I knew I got both poses or whatever. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I didn't. I don't think they seem that expensive. Thanks for the tip on the Star Quest. Absolutely. I think I read that one before. Hello from Phoenix. We were 100. I read that before. Tiffany Lamb, how you doing? I've got at least a couple hundred Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars for bashing into Gaslands. Yeah, absolutely. Isn't Vince's other job commission painting minis for other gamers? No. His other job, he works as he's a project manager at a software company that they make software for insurance companies, lawyers, something like that. I don't know. So yeah, he's got like a regular, like normal job. That's his main thing. And then he's got the YouTube channel and he's got the game company with me. Whereas I used to have a regular day job where I worked as a UX UI designer, which is user interface, user experience, what they used to call web designers back in the day. And I did that. And then I had the YouTube channel, and then we started the game company. And then I also started doing stuff with the Army Painter. And so then in 2022, late 2022, I went to just doing freelance, basically for the company that I used to work for full time. And then in 2024, like May of 2024, I had to stop working for them altogether. Great folks, loved working with them. But I was like, when I was working for them freelance, I'm like, if a company comes along and needs a big job and I also need to lay out our next game, I'm screwed. So I can't do that anymore. So yeah, since May, I think, of 2024, I've been completely 100% YouTube channel, game company, and working with the Army Painter folks. So that fly is pile driving every organ in Adam's body. No, it's just, you get like a scratch on your, like, you know what I mean? Like it was a tiny little gnat and I was like gonna try to like, but it was so small. And then I'm pretty sure I did suck it in. And then I think it bounced off of that little punching bag you got back there or something. And then you get like a scratch and yeah, it's. Let's see here. I think Trench Crusade splits the difference on miniature agnostic pretty well. I mean, that's the thing is that I think is still great about the company is that you can play with whatever models you want. Now, technically, you can play with whatever models you want for any company, obviously. But if you go to an official 40K tournament and you roll up with a bunch of kit-bashed crap that's not theirs, they're going to be like, no, you can't do that. But if you roll up to a Trench Crusade, tournament, official event or whatever that they might have at a big show, if your stuff is completely whatever, they're not going to bust your chops on that. That's part of the deal. Like last year at Nova, the first event they ever did, the first like full, like they had a narrative like campaign event thing or whatever, it was like 24 players, and what's his name? Phil, the Glacial Geek, won, and his models were all basically kit mash GW stuff. I can hear Ronnie's voice in my head. Very distinctive. Oh, yeah, absolutely. All sorts of videos online building with cardboard, converting for storage should be achievable. Yeah, probably so. What are your thoughts on the new StarCraft game? I'm not a big Army guy, so like I'm generally more of a skirmish player where you've got like, I don't know, 5, 10, maybe 15 models max on your entire force, and it looks like obviously, StarCraft, because it's based off of a real-time strategy game, is more about army stuff. But I don't, yeah. I think I've gone way over. I apologize. Yeah, I did. It's later than I thought. Let's see here. Love our UX designers. Well, I appreciate that. Prussian Staatstruppen Warband is $50, pretty reasonable. Yeah, I mean, for the plastics, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. I like the Campbell soup cans and Libby vegetable cans for their narrow corrugations in the metal. Interesting. I like being people who are like I have opinions about soup cans, because you know what I mean? Like I there's like certain things where like my wife will sometimes find something like a piece of like weird plastic that came in some packaging, and she's like, "Do you need to save this?" And I'll be like, "No, that's not gonna." And she's like, "Okay, cool." And she can't tell necessarily, because there's other times I'm like, "Oh God, that's gonna be perfect." And hey Carl, what day are you arriving at Adepticon? I'll be there Tuesday afternoon. Looking forward to connecting again. Absolutely, Carl Tuttle. How you doing? I'm getting there Wednesday afternoon. So yes, I live 90 miles, about 90 miles away. So it's a quick hour and a half drive for me. Knock on wood. But yeah, I'll be there on getting there Wednesday afternoon. And we should, yep, totally. Let's see here. All right, everybody, folks, time for me to go. I hope that you folks have yourselves a good rest of your weekend, or if it's already Monday where you are, I hope you have a good week. Some folks I'll probably see at Adepticon. Looking forward to that. And also, like I said, if you're interested, we will have our live podcast on Friday night, 8 to 9:30. I think it's sold out, but people have a tendency to like sign up and then not come. So if you're interested, come and check it out. And then we'll also be publishing that live podcast on our podcast feed and everything like that and all that kind of stuff, so you can watch that. It'll be great. So yeah, otherwise I'll be in and out of the Adepticon or the Army Painter booth quite a bit, and I'll be around and doing stuff. There's a creator panel on Saturday, Friday. When the heck is that thing again? I keep forgetting. Creator panels on Friday. Oh man, I'm doing 2 panels. I got a creator panel on Friday, and then after that I got the Snarlcast, which is kind of a panel, except it's just me and Vince. Anyway, there you go. Do some hobby if you can, and if you can't, don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.